Andy stands to stage left, glares at the audience, lifts his guitar to near vertical. The instrument squeals as if it knows what's coming. Drum and bass pound out a looping rhythm, 11 beats for the drum, 9 for the bass. Do-do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do. Almost a minute passes before the singer ambles to the microphone at the far end of the platform, while Andy, unblinking, launches into a spoken monologue. There's a form of bingo you can play with articles about Gang of Four. Simply check off the following phrases and words for a full house. Stripped back, pared down, uncompromising, and, inevitably, angular. This epithet is most often applied to Andy, also routinely depicted as torturing his strat rather than playing it. To say that Gang of Four isn't a band associated with love songs would be comedic understatement, but Love Like Anthrax is a song about love. The vocals portray a man immobilized like a beetle on its back, whether by love or the power structures apt to disfigure it. Andy talks across the singer, a rambling discourse on the music industry's predilection for romance. Musicians imagine the subject to be universal and relatable, he says, because apparently everyone has or can love, or so they would have you believe. Andy did and could love, me and many others. The nature of his love was different in each case, yet in all its forms consistent with the spirit of Anthrax. It was never the synthetic, syrupy stuff of ballads. He would always mark Valentine's Day, but preferred homemade concoctions to off-the-shelf sentiments. "Hello, dear, you are the loveliest in the forest, I love you to bits," reads the message inside a card featuring a doe in a poppy field. It is signed as usual with a heart pierced by an arrow and the letters A and C. Another Valentine commemorates a domestic misunderstanding. I'd accused Andy of eating the crust off our toasting bread. A few days later, after we'd finished the loaf, we discovered the real culprit, a marauding rat. Andy's card that year showed the two of us either side of the pierced heart. His figure is a little out of breath. Puff, puff. Mine points at him. Stop nibbling the corner of the bread. Below this tableau is an inscription. Be my Valentine, from a nono-mouse. I love you. Most of the time, a nono-mouse wasn't given to big declarations or discussing feelings of the warm and fuzzy kind. Anger or hurt, like bruises, generally took a day or two to surface, then lingered. I doubt Andy ever told his friends how much he cared for them, or even that he cared for them, except perhaps during alcohol-fugged exchanges of "I love you, mate," in the back of tour buses. He loved them, though. Among the most significant relationships to Andy, and because of what they produced, were those around and within Gang of Four. Rob Waugh, Gang of Four's first manager, remained close. Recent manager Aaron Moore and collaborator Santi Arribas were at Andy's deathbed. So too Gang of Four's last lineup. His relationships with John Sterry and Thomas McNeice, respectively the band's singer and bass player during that final decade, mattered hugely to him, with Andy 2/5 mentor to the younger men, 3/5 their ringleader in crime and creativity. My beloved cared deeply about former band members too, in particular Gail Ann Dorsey. As he lay dying, I made sure to let the most significant people from his life know what was happening and to enable hospital visits where possible. There were, however, 3 notable exceptions. Not until after the final vigil, when we had gathered round Andy one last time, cried over him, stroked him, heard him pronounced dead, then regrouped, listless, in the atrium of St. Thomas's, did I compose an important email. The band members had prepared a statement. It was unthinkable that they should publish it before I broke the news to Gang of Four's co-founders, drummer Hugo Burnham, bass player Dave Allen, and singer John King, the last of these once and for many years Andy's best friend. You might say I ought to have reached out to him while Andy still lived, and you could be right. Loss, instead of uniting the bereaved in grief, has a terrible habit of deepening divisions. In the past week alone, I've heard from several friends who are dealing with family deaths and now find themselves locked in battle with siblings, even children. Money appears to be the root of these disputes, but inheritances are small and could quickly dissipate in legal fees. Often something more nebulous drives the impulse to brawl over coffins. Relationships are dialogues. When someone dies, the dialogue breaks off mid-sentence. If that person has gone to bed on an argument, the survivors are left hanging. This chapter charts a little of the turbulence attending Andy's death and my subsequent race to complete and launch The Problem of Leisure, the album of Gang of Four covers he had nearly finished. The story speaks to the complexities of the emotion the music industry so blithely traduces and reduces. Yes, love can be joyous, but it also gets you like a case of anthrax. Love builds and destroys, lifts you up and dashes you to the floor, as defenseless as the guitar that Andy, in the final moments of anthrax, always hurled at the monitor. Once down, it's hard to recover. Some days I feel like a beetle on its back, too full to get up. Grief commonly manifests as an emptiness, but I suffer from the opposite problem. Love for Andy with nowhere to go fills my chest, leaks from my eyes, bubbles in my throat. I am awash with love, drowning in it. It's almost too much to bear, yet I try to avoid situations that risk diluting its intensity. It is what remains of our lives together. Many who are grieving experience something similar, primed for love, not war. All the same, our worlds are full of battles, clogged with paperwork and inherited problems. I write, therefore, in warning as well as encouragement. There must be ways to minimize the danger of post-mortem conflicts and to diffuse them if they arise. Perhaps such lessons can be teased out of the experiences of the past difficult months. I will make a start, here and now, by resolving to never again go to bed on an argument. Bereavements are inevitable, but oh, how much better if we avoid losing the living along with the dead.